All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another DC Worlds Collide video. This is Mr. Squirrel, as always. Glad to have you here. So, let's talk about potential teams for Aquaman. I have been following the Discord. I've been following some conversations. I've been engaging with some people, and I wanted to give my general thoughts on whether or not you should summon. And I know there are some people like you never give definitive answers, and that's because I want to leave it up to you whether or not to make these decisions. So this is going to be a video of potential teams and whether or not you should summon for him. The short answer: do I think he is good? Yes. But again, this is on paper. We don't know how he's going to be. I will have a video tomorrow. This is going to be posted probably around 11 o'clock on Wednesday. And so you will see a video first thing on Thursday morning that tells you whether or not how good he is. I will be streaming later today. You'll see him in action. I am going to start running him the minute I get him. So there is that, folks. Now hold on one quick second. I'm going to change one thing. Sorry, I had light glaring in my eyes. But I'm going to go over some teams today, and the purpose behind this is that if you have these teams, then I think potentially he is a good character for you. Now, I'm going to preface most of this by saying he's going to need Mara. Like, just straight up, he's going to need Mara. And this is not like, oh, well, maybe no. I mean, he is legitimately like on a different league with Mara, because the way his passive is stated is that he gets any buff Mara gets. So if he gets Zebel armor, we're talking about two characters in the front line that have, with Mara, if you have badge 20, she can go up to 55% damage reduction, mind you, 55%. And then for him, it would be 35%, and both having 100% crit damage reduction. That is absolutely nutty when you think about it. That just gave what I wanted Peacemaker to have, but for all the characters. Mind you, that will make them strong and tanky. Now, his passive, he is both a Frostbite and a Sacrifice-based champion. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't think that Frostbite is right now in a place where it's runnable. Just being honest with you guys, I just don't think it is in a place where it is runnable. And so I really do want to kind of preface that, because when we think about what he's doing, it right now, I just don't think the Frostbite is where it's at. I don't. I think it has a lot of potential moving forward, but I also think it's going to be a little weird moving forward. So I want to talk about that. And so Frostbite is not the team right now that I think you should be running him on, but I'm going to go through that team. I think Sacrifice is where it's at, but I do think there are some reservations that I have with Sacrifice. Now, there is one team I'm actually going to start with that I think actually can kind of work. And I'm going to talk through it. The thing is that we don't know what he's going to get. So this could or could not work out. But there is and I'm going to go through this, is Judo Master with Vigilante and what's his name? Dr. Phosphorus. And then you have these two running in the front. This could actually work because it will work in the sense that you're triggering his passive. There's a lot of counterattacking, life stealing. You don't have a lot of Sacrifice going on in this team, but you do have an immense amount of armor break, because Mara still has a ton of armor break. So this team can actually work. I'm going to try this team at some point whatever they do with Phosphorus. I'm going to wait till they buff Phosphorus, but I am actually kind of curious about running this team, and I think it'll do its job quite well. Because of how much armor break she's putting on the enemy, this team actually has quite a bit of potential. Yeah, overall. And then remember, he's sacking his HP every time he does, he auto attacks. So, and he'll make it so that Sacrifice isn't that bad. So we'll see what they do when they buff him. Right now, it won't work just because he's not that great. Right now, he's kind of memey, but there is potential there. Okay, let's talk about Sacrifice Team 1. All right, so we got Aquaman and we've got Mara. Now, also, some chatters did let me know, and on my Discord and just in general, There is no new team synergy for him. So we are going to have to run multiple forms of different team synergies. And I'm going to talk through that. So I do think there are specific characters that you are going to run with him. I'm going to go through the different types of teams because I think there are two variations of a team you can run. One being more damage oriented, one being more tank oriented. I'm a little bit more towards the tank oriented side of it, but we'll see. We'll talk. So the first team I want to talk about is going to be a full sacrifice team. And that's this team right here. So you're going to run Aquaman as a main tank, Maris an off tank. You'll have Fate as your priority ultimate. So it would look something like this. And this team is going to be very sacrifice heavy. Now, I want to make a note here. Constantine's passive, where it takes HP is from allies, is not considered sacrifice. The reason is he is on the sacrifice tag is because of his ultimate, not because he himself, when their HP is getting taken away from your allies, is actually considered a sacrifice. That is not considered a sacrifice. It is considered an HP loss. I think that might be a little too OP on this team because then that would literally remove everything and you would just be automatically giving everybody recuperate and strong attack. The more I was thinking about it, I'm like, I can kind of see that. It would be a little OP. However, there is someone that sacks every time that they ultimate, and that's Fate. So I personally think Fate is way better than Constantine on this team. However, Constantine is sacking off people's HP, but you got to remember Aquaman has another part of his passive where it's when someone is below 65%, they're going to heal up 15% of their max HP. And if they're above it, they get strong attack. So either way, there is a heal going out to this team, and it has a really nice balance of keeping someone around 60% HP, which also for Fate, whenever someone ultimates and they're below 60% of their HP, they get a shield. Now, mind you, Fate also gets more attack when people are lower in health. So it overall works out really well. Now, you also have Pandora. When invested really well, she is doing quite a bit. To the point where there's ways to make her first ult almost like cost nothing. We'll talk later about that when I start getting more onto her. Her badge 30 is quite interesting. But we'll talk more about it. And then you've got Constantine here who, again, he's taking HP off of the team. But because you have Aquaman, that's not as bad of a thing because he's going to keep healing people up. And with Fate, you're going to create... This is a very damage-oriented team. I think this team is actually very good. This is the team I'm very excited to run. There's another team that I'm also very excited to run that I do want to talk about. So it's the same setup. We'll do this. Except there's one change. And that's going to be Lex Luthor. Now, also in the previous team, you're going to run it on Pandora's leader skill. Just an FYI. On this team, it would look something like this. Even positioning, I would run the positioning like this. And you're probably like, wait, what? So Lex Luthor, what he's going to do, I'd put him in the back. So he's like a support sustainer. And his job is just to throw out Fate as much as possible. Fate gets strong attack every time he basics, right? So you can be building up an immense amount of strong attack on Fate through this comp. And then you've got Pandora so Pandora is your single target damage and Fate is your main target damage here, or your AoE damage. My thought is that this team actually is so tanky, it would just tank through most things. And then by the end of it, by the end of the game, then, once you start whittling the teams down, I would priority ult, Fate and Pandora, and then have him as your third, and then these two are just alt one, and then it would literally go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's how I would alt with this team. And I actually think this team has a lot of potential, like a lot of potential. Both of these sacrifice teams are very spicy to me. There is an area where you could run potentially, and then instead of Fate. Now I'm going to say this. I think Fate is going to be almost a mandatory person for this team. Now, the thing with Fate, though, and I'm going to highlight this, is remember, if you're running Fate, you really, really, really want to get him to rank 10. Because then he doesn't have a limit on how often people get HP back once they're sacrificing. If pre-rank 10... he only has 5 charges on that, or 5 times that it can be triggered, which means Fate will trigger 4 of them right when he ults. In that case, on that team, I probably actually wouldn't run Fate until I get him to rank 10, because then Fate's going to burn all of those charges super duper fast. The thing is though, is that Fate, when everyone on the team is high rank, so you got him rank 10, rank at least like rank 10, badge 20. Per specifically, you do need badge 20 for her. But what's going to happen, this is why this is so interesting for Mara, is that when you get her to badge 20, she gets 5% damage reduction and 10% attack when she sacrifices her HP or her HP is sacrificed. The way you run this is you have him ult first and her like go really fast. By the time she's like taking her turn, by the end of round 1, she's got 45% damage reduction, because he will have ulted and she will have already triggered her double armor. That's 2 stacks of 5% damage reduction. So we're talking at 45% damage reduction at the end of round 1. She's got as much damage reduction as a fully built up Lex Luthor. So FYI, she's going to be, and then once he ults again, she'll get the 50, and then when she does her double armor the second time, she'll be sitting at the full 55% damage reduction. She becomes very, very tanky. I will say that, but she needs badge 20 for that to happen. And I'm running full HP on her, just an FYI. Her badge 30 is also very good. We don't know his badge yet. I'll make another video later when we know what his badge does. Overall, I do think this team can work very well. I think either one of these teams, I'm a little bit more interested in Sacrifice 1 than I am in 2, just because I think with Aquaman's so when we come back here, I am more interested in this team just because I do think there are more sustainable ways that this team's kind of operating, but at the same time, we don't know. Maybe this team does need Lex Luthor to make it work. I don't know. Now, didn't mean to do that. Frostbite. Okay, now hold on with Frostbite. Now this one's going to be an interesting one. I'm not going to lie to you about this one. This one is missing some things that will make it work. I think personally, this is kind of the option you're going to run on this team. And it's lacking damage, y'all. I'm going to be real with you. You got Supergirl here. You're running her team synergy. You're running Bizarro, and you've got, what's his name? Green Arrow. That way you got, so heal. Like everybody's healing because they're all frostbiting. That's what she does. It's what you want her to do. You're getting extra damage from the frostbite. Can it work? Totally. Do I think it's going to be meta right now? No. And what's going to end up happening is you're probably going to take him off and you're going to throw on Killer Frost when she comes out. I just don't think this is at a point where it's needed. I honestly am treating the frostbite on both of them as like a nice to have right now. Not like it's mandatory. I think when we get Killer Frost, this will become a lot better. I also don't know how I feel about him. Bizarro. I don't think this team really needs it. I just don't. I think he'll be able to tank through most of this stuff pretty well, but I could be totally wrong. I mean, I could be wrong, guys. He's going to need Mara, but when he's got double armor up with Mara, I just don't see a need for Bizarro. Also, I personally would much rather, actually, I think you can run this team with Green Arrow, and then you just throw what's her name on it. Killer Frost, and you got a good team that's ready to go. I really do think Killer Frost will make this team kind of just work the way it needs to. These two together will be doing so much Frostbite that you don't need to worry so much. The only thing about this team, though, is you got to take note. Personally, I actually would preferably maybe even run Fate here, because this team is going to lack damage. So I'd want Killer Frost and Fate. Now, the reason I really want Fate is, again, because I do want that sacrifice procs. They're looking for sacrifice. They are looking for sacrifice. And so this is where this gets a little tricky. They want sacrifice, but yet they're not. They're not really getting it. Yeah, because she, at her badge 20, really wants to have her HP sacrificed so that she can build up that damage reduction quickly so that she can become as tanky as possible. And also him being mighty does kind of throw off the color wheel heal a little bit. So again, do I think it's good? I do think it's good. I think this team can work. I just think we don't have all the puzzle pieces yet to make it fully work. And I just don't think it's going to be doing enough damage. Just flat out. I don't think it's going to be doing enough damage. Now on the last team we're going to talk about, block. All right. So for block, okay. Do I think block can work? I do. Do I think it's good? Probably not. Now, there's a reason. Because I'm going to just be real with y'all. Fate is going to be these two's best friend. He is. Because of his ult sacking off HP. However, he is also a shield-based character. Do you know what really isn't good synergy? Block and shield. They don't synergize well together. Shields actually make it so your team can't block because you're not dealing damage to their HP. So guess what? This doesn't proc, right? So you're actually, unfortunately, you cannot use them. You can't use Fate because Fate's going to actually create shield that those shields will actually interrupt. They'll negatively impact the ability for characters to block, which overall impacts this team very negatively. So you do want to run Constantine. Yet Constantine is not his, whatchamacallit. His passive isn't considered a sacrifice. The only part of his kit that's actually considered a sacrifice is going to be his ultimate. I think it'll work just fine, but it's not something that's going to be like, he's not sacking off HP for her. So she's not getting that Zebel armor increased damage reduction. I know people are like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, at 35%, she needs a little bit more damage reduction. Just being honest with y'all. She does need more damage reduction at 35%. I think he can work because he's also getting shelter. But we'll see. I mean, I could be totally wrong. Excuse me. And my interpretation of this could be completely off kilter, but I do see him because of the crit damage reduction. He's going to, with a lot of HP and speed, I just see him really just being this crazy support for the team. And then with her sitting next to him, with legendary, you got to remember he's got legendary stats, and we don't know what his badge is going to do. His badge can make him very tanky. If badge makes him even tankier than he is, I mean, we got some serious tankiness going on, and he is just a wall. I want him to be a straight wall that's buffing the team, like a paladin kind of character. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of the block team. I do think SAC team 1 and 2 are the way to go right now. So again, I do think if we look back at these teams, SAC team 1 and 2 is where you're going to find a lot of the money for this team. Just these three are going to be doing crazy amounts of damage in the back. We'll see what his badge does. If his badge makes him really tanky, then I would say this team works out really well. However, if his badge does not make him super tanky, I would actually say this is your team you're going to go with, because Lex Luthor will give your team so many shields, plus Fate with shields, plus her with healing and shields, that you're just going to be just sitting in shields the whole time. And your opponent's going to really struggle to try to get through all of that shielding with all the healing on top of it as well. And remember, he's giving out strong attack. They're above HP. It's overall, I think, just a really good team. So we'll see what happens. That's my general thought process on the teams that you can run Aquaman on. I will say this, I think he is very flexible. You just need to have Mara, and then everything else you just throw him on whatever team you want. Okay, folks, that's it for this video. I hope it helps. And as always, remember, failing is just your first attempt at learning.